cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
Do you ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome into the View from C-Deck. I am a cleanly shaven Just Matt here with the Hoss, and we're ready to do a little 2025 NFL draft preview. It's finally here this week. If you're a draft nut like us, you're going to be hype. We're going to do it mostly from an Ohio State perspective, though, but not just that. We'll take a look at who we think are some busts and some sleepers out there overall, and maybe take a look at what the Browns are going to do. It's as a Browns fan, Jason, this is like the highlight of your year most years, right?
Well, not for the last 3 years when we didn't have a first-round pick. So
That's true.
That was
you did. His name was Deshaun Watson all 3 years.
Yeah. It was nice that, during the draft, we basically just get to sit there with a thumbs up our butt thinking, man, we have a really good quarterback. We don't even need this draft. And nope, wasn't the case.
Nope. And you're back up there, number 2, now that you're back in the first round again. It's perfect timing. Real quick, they're going to take Travis Hunter, it sounds like. Are you hype about that pick or what? I mean, he's a sure thing to be at least a solid player, I think.
Yeah, I think, it's better than taking a quarterback and watching this carousel go round and around. It's tough to not pick Abdul Carter to pair him with Myles Garrett since, we kind of just signed him, gave him a big extension. He wants to, he's going to be in Cleveland for the foreseeable future. So, I really think Abdul Carter is a better player to pick because Travis Hunter, I don't know. I don't think you can go wrong, but I just think with what we have, I think Abdul Carter fits better. But Travis Hunter's a hell of a ball player, so.
Yeah, I think a lot of Browns fans share your sentiment, at least the ones I know. But either way, it's always going to be interesting when the Browns are on the clock and see if they, as some people have hinted at, that they might, after they draft Travis Hunter, try to trade back into the first round and get Shedeur, which would be such a Cleveland move and be wonderful. But from a Buckeyes perspective, look, there's a chance that they break the record of 15 players taken, a really good chance they tie it. Josh Fryer being maybe a wild card to get drafted. I honestly don't know why he's not projected. He didn't get invited to the combine, and he's not projected to get drafted at all, which kind of blows my mind that a guy with 29 straight starts and just won a national championship playing hurt and showed a lot of improvement, and also could definitely switch positions. I don't know if he's a tackle either, but why couldn't he be a guard? I don't know either. Has good run blocking stats, I guess, from PFF, and by watching him, he's a fine run blocker. Obviously, pass blocking not his best, but either way, he could slip in and give it 16. Josh Simmons projected to be the highest one, but it may not end up being one. There's about 3 guys that have been getting first round looks between him, actually 4, him, Emeka, Travion, and Donovan Jackson. Who do you think will be the first Buckeye off the board?
It's going to be Ibuka. I think that'd be the surefire bet.
I don't know. A lot of folks don't have him there.
I just think with Simmons or the knee injury with him, I keep seeing falling, and there's a few good tackles, and I think the SEC tackles just get the benefit of the nod these days, just because from the SEC, I guess. But I just think that teams as you get later and later in that first round, the teams that are in that win now mode aren't going to want to sit around and wait on a guy that's injured. And so that's where a guy that's injured, if he falls towards the end of that first round, he's just probably going to fall into the beginning of the second round, where those teams that are bad they're willing to sit on him for half a season because he probably won't be ready to start the season. So, and maybe he will, but that's kind of my thinking there is why he keeps slipping. So I think it's going to be Ibuka because I think that's my most interesting thing to watch for this draft is where the playmakers start to go. The last 8, 9, 10, I think is where some playmakers are going to start going there. A team like Carolina, you have the Saints, you have the Cowboys that all could use receivers. The Colts need playmakers. So I think Ibuka, once these playmakers start going off the board, he's going to be a lock to go in, I think, the top 18, to be honest.
I haven't seen him mocked anywhere up there, but he could be because he's consistent. I personally have a second round grade on Ibuka just because of the lack of speed. but he's got everything else I think you'd want. But he's lack of speed, and he doesn't track the ball deep at an elite level. Like, he's good now, but it's been a struggle since. I mean, that's something he's worked on and improved markedly since he got to Ohio State. I thought he used to fight it a lot his first 2 years on the team, and then he was injured a lot his third year, so you couldn't really tell. Then in the playoff run, he actually he had the deep ball against Oregon, obviously, and it was kind of a weird play though because it got tipped actually before he caught it. But it's never anything I've seen him do like at an elite level. But he's got everything else, but the top end speed. Like I said, he ran a 4.45 at OSU's pro day. Tack on .05 to anything you see at a pro day because it's like I don't trust anything that wasn't at the actual combine. So I don't think he's actually that fast. He never looked that fast playing, and that's not even that fast of a time for a receiver. So I think he's more like a surefire pro for 10 years for sure, but not somebody that I think is going to like change your offense in any way.
My only thinking is like I keep seeing Matthew Golden potentially being the first receiver off the board, and he didn't have gaudy numbers at all last year, and he's 6 foot, pretty undersized to be a de facto number one receiver for a team like Carolina who doesn't have one. And if you're going to draft a guy like Matthew Golden at 6 feet tall, like why wouldn't you just draft a Buckeye if he's going to be that high too? Has better numbers and he's more established. I'm not saying Buckeye is a better receiver than Golden, but at the same time, I think that like there's no de facto wide receiver that's like above the rest of them. I think McMillan for me would be the guy who I'd take first. But I think like this is just a weird draft because it just seems like if you look at the notes for every guy, like it could be Warren, it could be John T, it could be Mason Graham from Michigan. Like they're all like this could be the best player in the draft. But like so like there's a lot of that line's used for a lot of guys, and so that's why I think there's going to be just a hodgepodge of guys selected there when teams like, you know what, these guys are all a hair breadth away between each other. So what's the difference between Buckeye and Golden? I don't think there's much.
Golden's faster, and did have good stats in the playoff. I think there's a lot of like high floor but not super high ceiling guys in this draft. It's like there's a ton of them though. There's I don't think there's a ton of like busts. I think there's risky picks, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. If you draft a guy that didn't produce, I think you're insane right now in the first round because there's so many guys that also have like good attributes, like the physical attributes and the production are there. I don't know why you'd be messing with a guy like I'm probably giving away who my bust is going to be, but like with a guy who didn't produce even if they have the attributes, but like there's guys who have like tons of guys who have both. I think it'll be Donovan Jackson. It'll be the first Buckeye taken. I think he's shot up the boards with his versatility. Showed swinging out the tackle this year while already being like a very solid pro prospect as a guard. Arm length is great. I just don't see Buckeye going that high. I think Simmons. I think you're right. I think he slips. I'll say on the flip side of you saying that he'll slip out of the first round to a team that's waiting. He was trending to be the number one pick at tackle in the draft. And when you get to the later first round, how many of those teams that are always good are going to get the chance to draft somebody like that? So maybe they'll eat him, putting him on the PUP list first.
The Eagles
or whatever, and then the Eagles or the Chiefs, and then you have that guy who's that kind of talent. I mean, you may have to wait on him, but you're good enough around him to work around it while he's gone, and then hopefully he kicks in, and then boom, you just got a top 10 pick at pick 30. The Ravens. It feels like something they would do. I don't know, but I don't think he slips out of the first round at all. I see more likely Buckeye, and maybe Henderson jumps in there. For the Buckeyes, though, who do you think outside of those first round projections has the chance to have the best career?
The best career? Ugh.
I'll start if you want to think about it for a minute.
You can start, yeah. Ugh.
I'm going to go with JT. Tuilamalau. I honestly think if I was a GM, I'd have a first round grade on him. There's nothing he's bad at, and his production skyrocketed once we kind of changed our approach on defense. He actually has some pass moves. Like he does have that spin move, which we didn't see once we kind of adjusted to not wanting to give up big plays anymore. We stopped seeing him do that as much, but he's had big games against good tackles. Mm-hmm. And it's been every year, even though his production wasn't always great his first 3 years, really. but especially his second and third year, sophomore and junior year. Like, it wasn't where you expect it to be for a guy that was so highly recruited, but he's got all the physical skills. His arms are long as hell. They're like 81. He had like an 81-inch wingspan, which means he's built to beat tackles. He's excellent at setting the edge of the run. Always was at Ohio State. Like, excellent. He's an anchor there. So like that's a worst case scenario for him, is he's a good edge setter on first and second down and can be out there. But we saw him in the playoff. He played against Josh Connerly, who's got first round projections. Kelvin Banks, who's got first round projections. Notre Dame's tackles are always good, although they were really young. But so he had sacks in like every single game. He had like 6.5 sacks in the playoff run, which is awesome. So against high level competition, he was producing. He showed he could. We've seen it in the past against Fashanu from Penn State. He had that huge game a couple years ago. And like I said, the floor is low, the ceiling's high. I think because a lot like they say about the Texas A&M guys, they don't have stats because of the system. The reasons he didn't have stats were because of the system we ran. So I just think he's got the highest upside and a high floor for the guys that are going outside the first round in these projections.
I think there's only two answers. I don't think really, like, I love that we won a national championship, but like professionally, I don't think a lot of these guys are going to translate well to the NFL. Like a guy like Judkins, like a guy who lacks top end speed, like he's good in college, but it's not going to be good in the pro. I think it's like you said, it's either JTT or for me, Tyleik Williams, a big defensive tackle. Like D tackles seem like they can stick around in the league for a long time as long as you're a good run stuffer. Like they're very hard to come by. So like if he can just be serviceable and just keep his size in there, I think he could have a longevity of a career that's not like a Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward's a Hall of Famer, but a guy that can stick around at a place for a long time and kind of be like that anchor and that mentality for them to be tough and stuff. So I don't know. That's a tough question because like I don't see a guy like Sawyer being a guy that's going to have a great career. As much as I like Travion, like the health concerns scare me. So yeah.
Okay, how about the flip side of that? Who do you think probably won't live up to their draft hype for Ohio State?
It's probably Ibuka though. Like it could be Ibuka. If he does get selected high as a wide receiver and the team is banking on him being like a really high, like if the Panthers or the Saints are drafting him to be a
8 or 9.
Yeah, I know, but if a team does reach out, or the Cowboys, and like they really need him to be a big contributor, and they're expecting to go to the playoffs in year one with him, I think they could be seeing some growing pains, like almost like Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of had some growing pains right off the start. He really got slow, and now the Seahawks will realize, okay, maybe we can kind of run with him, and they'll see if that pans out with them. But yeah, probably Ibuka would be the one that I could see being a bust.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if he'll be a bust. But a guy I don't think I would even touch in the draft is Denzel Burke, because he may slip to like I think he's going to slip later than people think. He's projected like round 4, round 3, round 4 in a lot of drafts, and I just don't see what he does at a pro level. Like to me, he's not. The ball skills definitely aren't there. You can never argue that. He's not a great tackler either, or consistent, and coaches are going to hate that. And then he's sticky. In college, he was sticky for the most part. But he lacks the like top end physical traits to like think he can be like Ward. They're very comparable, except for Ward's just a way better version. And then you see their 40 times and like how much faster Denzel Ward was. And like that's what you'd hope that Burke could be, but he's not even close, but he's 0.2 seconds slower in the 40, which is 2 steps slower. Can he stay with NFL like number 2 receivers at being 2 steps slower than Denzel Ward? I don't think so at all. And he lacks all the other traits. I mean, and Ward's a hit. I'm just not to compare him to Denzel Ward because obviously he's not that. But I'm just saying I just don't see like what he does at an NFL level.
I've been saying that for 2 years now. Him and Igbenogson should not be drafted next year at all either. Like these corners, they stink. They are not like we got lucky. They're lucky that they played in the Big Ten against bad receivers in the Big Ten. I mean, we had a great defense around them to really not. Their quarterback's not really get rid of the ball anyways downfield. But yeah, I would not draft Burke. I wouldn't even sign him as an undrafted free agent. I wouldn't even put him on my practice squad. He's not good. There's no way he's going to be a good player. If he is, I just will stop talking about football in general.
Well, then, I'm going to hold you to that.
He,
Maybe the
he,
entire.
he has to be Sean Wade. I think he's a worse version of Sean Wade.
All right. Okay. Outside of the Buckeye land, though, anybody, we'll say, who do you think in the first round is like a surefire, like Pro Bowl type player? It could be one of the top guys.
Because it just matters where they go. But damn, like a couple guys that jump off the page are Mason Graham and like Travis Hunter. I'm not too set on Abdul Carter. So I think Travis Hunter, his just athleticism, his freakish ability to his ball skills are otherworldly. That's why he's going to be drafted probably number 2. I don't care what side of the ball you put him on, just having those ball skills, being able to read the quarterbacks, and like him playing both sides of the ball. Him or Mason Graham, I flip the coin. I think one of those two guys could easily be a Hall of Famer here in a couple of years where we're like, okay, yeah, they're going to be a Hall of Famer down the line.
Yeah, Mason Graham's mine, because I'm like, what does like every super elite D tackle have is like incredible play strength where they can just kind of do whatever they want, just moving guys around. You don't have to be explosive. You just got to be able to throw guys away. Like Aaron Donald is ridiculous. Yeah. Even like the bigger guys, and he's like kind of in between like these like smaller because he's not huge, but he's not 280 either. Like he's a big boy, and he just dominated people with pure physicality in college, and I think it just carries over so well. Whoever get like probably a lot of people are projecting to the Patriots or Jacksonville. Either one of them is going to get a steal there. I think he's the best player in the draft. Busts that you think we'll go with like bust in the first round or maybe outside. I'm going to start Shamar Stewart. I hinted at earlier. 1.5 sacks each of his 3 years in college. 4.5 total. I don't care what system you're in. That's pathetic. I don't care what. There's no way they're telling you to never sack the quarterback. And we've seen how many guys, countless guys have we seen that have these physical, like he put up like top 2 percentile, maybe top 1 percentile numbers at the combine. But I don't care. If you don't, there's athletes and there's football players. He's a pure athlete who doesn't have any football. Like he doesn't have any pass rush moves. Everybody even says it. He doesn't have a move. Like what are you going to teach? Like he's just suddenly going to be able to do a move at full speed. The Bengals, they just drafted a guy like that 2 years ago. Miles Murphy hasn't done jack in the league because that's exactly the problem. You have the physical attributes. You don't have any moves. You don't have any production. I don't see how it changes in the NFL when you're playing against the real big boys.
Man, like I'm leaning towards like Genty. Like just
I'm kind of with you there. Go ahead.
I'm leaning towards Genty being a running back and being drafted that highly. Like there's a reason why running backs aren't drafted highly anymore. It's because just I think the teams are realizing you can kind of run have two running backs and kind of split the load. And if you're drafting a guy that high, you're going to draft him with the assertion that you can give him a shit ton of touches. And I don't think he's a guy that's going to be I don't think he's a Saquon Barkley type of talent to be drafted that high in the top 10. And that's what people are mocking him as, or a Zeke guy who can be on the field for all 3 downs. I don't think Jonty's that guy. I think he is worthy of being in the back half of the first round. But if he's drafted in the top, if the Cowboys, for God's sakes, pick him as their franchise back, I think he's going to. I could see that being a flop for them. He's also going to need a good offensive line to come in the league and flourish, as a lot of running backs do. And so if a team in the top 10 probably doesn't have a good offensive line, and so I think he didn't really have that great open field and make guys miss. I think his was more of a power game, breaking through tackles. That's also another thing in the NFL. Guys are bigger, stronger. They're not going to have a really hard time with that. But he didn't really have that open field shiftiness to me that popped. So I think I could see him being a flop per se.
Yeah, I could see that too. You're right. He relies on a lot of his balance and power and vision to be excellent. He's got good open field speed too, but you're shredding not the best defenses in the world on his schedule every week. And even he had a good game against Oregon. Yeah, but look at Oregon's defense, gave up a lot of big games, turns out, throughout the season. So it's not overly impressive. And And it's just, yeah, he's being mocked at 6 a lot to the Raiders because they're the Raiders, I think mostly. And they do need a running back really bad. But man, at 6 overall, I would never take a running back that high unless, like, that's the last ingredient, which he's not. The Raiders have a ton of needs. So, like, he's not the last ingredient. So, like when the Cowboys took Zeke, you could make an argument that they needed a quarterback, but there wasn't one there. So you could make the argument that he was the last ingredient with the offensive line they had and some of the other skill players. And obviously then he, led the league in yardage as a rookie and his third year as well, and probably would have his second year had he not been suspended. But yeah, Genty's, I don't think he's on that level either of like a Saquon to that. Plus these guys that come in with tons of work the year before, and he got ran into the ground at Boise State. They tend to struggle early on in their career. Cedric Benson's one that comes to mind, who ended up being good later on, but he was like coming off a 300 carry season at Texas and then came in and just was never lived up to the hype of being a top 5 pick like he was. An old reference there by me. All right. Anything else you're looking forward to in the draft? I guess the big story is going to be Shedeur. They're trying to make, or they maybe just trying to make it that way. I don't see how he slips past 9, maybe, because Billy need a quarterback now, but.
The big story is the Giants. Obviously, that has to tie in with Shedeur. I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I think they're going to either trade or pick Shedeur. I think those are the only 2 options because they're not going to pick up Abdul Carter. They just are not going to pick him because they already have a very good defensive line, and they were already really good with sacks last year with Kevon Thibodeau, and they have Burns as well, who was all-world edge rusher. And so I think Abdul Carter's locked to go to the Patriots. I think you could block that in. The Jaguars are going to go tackle. So yeah, Shedeur is the big question, but I think the Giants, that's who trades up with the Giants. If the Giants decide to trade out, or if the Giants do decide to take Shedeur, who's going to be that team that trades up? Because I could see a team like the Jaguars who need multiple things other than a quarterback trading down. So that's going to be Shedeur is definitely the big piece there because I think it just mainly ties into what the Giants do. But my big thing is, like I said earlier, the playmakers, the wide receivers and the tight ends. Where does Tyler Warren go? Where does Loveland go? What teams need wide receivers? Because if these teams at the top don't pick these wide receivers, and they may not be great wide receivers like a Marvin Harrison, but they still are impactful, like a McMillan or Luther Burden, Golden, Ibuka are all very good. Whereas teams if they do fall down to the Cowboys and the Bengals, the Cardinals, the good teams that still are a couple pieces away, that's going to be really interesting to see. Because then you have the teams like the Steelers sitting there. If the Steelers get a wide receiver like that, that'd be pretty good for them. But they got DK, so they don't really need a wide receiver anymore.
Yeah, and I think they could still use another wide receiver because Pickens is too much of a wild card, and you need a number 2 nowadays. The only reason I think they don't slip is because it's such a premium position in terms of pay now that getting a discount on a good receiver is vital almost. Same way with rookie quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
You need them because unless you're the Bengals, you're not going to pay 2 of them top flight money. I think the Shedeur thing is going to be interesting, but I think it's maybe getting overhyped. I'm interested to see where the tight ends go because they're both beasts. And I'm interested to see kind of the order of the receivers because they could go. There's a lot of different orders those receivers could go, and that would be pretty interesting as well. And where does the DNs too, the edges? There's a lot of teams that need them that are picking in this back half of the first round, but I think it's just a weak class overall for the edges.
Yeah, because
a guy like JT that's got a super high floor.
Yeah, and a guy we played the Pierce guy from Tennessee, and he still had a really good season. But when he played us,
he impressed me against us.
What's that?
He impressed me against us. He made a play on the screen that was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was getting constant pressure. We had a great game plan with our whole offensive line all playoffs. But yeah, it's just interesting to see where those other edge rushers go, and some of them are ranked. Yeah, the edge rushers are very interesting because I think Abdul Carter I think he's a little overvalued too. But
if he didn't have the shoulder injury, I'd agree with you. But with the shoulder, you never know, man. That stuff lingers. They can linger for a whole career. Yeah. So it scared me a little bit. But I'd still take him top 5, no problem. All right. Well, it should be fun though. I mean, my boys and I, especially back in college, used to throw a huge draft party every year. And I hate that the NFL moved it to Thursdays instead of Saturday, but still enjoy your Thursday night, first round. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting as always. And hopefully our teams make good picks and your teams don't. But for the Haas, I'm just Matt. And go Bucks. Hope they all find a good place that will keep them on rosters for years to come, and that hopefully maybe somehow Fryer sneaks in and gets drafted and we get 16 guys drafted. 16 guys, sorry, and break the record. But that would be awesome. But for the Haas, and I'm just Matt. This has been The View from C-Deck. Like, subscribe, comment, and we will see you guys next time.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.